Stephanie Milky here, aka KetoMOM, or often called mom, sis, Steffi, daughter, wife, aunt, and friend. Just like many of you, I carry a lot of titles. My favorite title is mom. I should probably say wife, which takes a lot of my time. But let's be honest, if you want to do something and do it well, you will make the time for it. Commitment is hard because we find ourselves overcommitted, but when you practice prioritizing, you will find out what is actually important and what you can let go. With the KetoMOM podcast, you will learn together how to manage our time, commit to the most important things in life, and I will equip you with the tools you need to feel qualified each step of the way. My name is Stephanie Milky, and welcome to the KetoMOM Secrets podcast.
How did I get here?
Hey, well,
How did I get here? Overnight? This all happened overnight, but it's supposed to be gone already. Why is it not gone already? I hear that question all the time. Hey, welcome today to KetoMOM. This is Stephanie. This is KetoMOM.
He was making me
I'm her
laugh
husband.
before we hopped on.
I'm Steve, and we are so glad to be bringing to you The Power to Change by Craig Groeschel.
All right, welcome. It's going to be a super great day. Hey, as you're tuning in, tell us where you're tuning in from. We would love to see where you're tuning in from. We are in Minnesota, where the snow is leaving us, so spring can come.
Yes.
We're so excited.
So good.
We still have a lot, but it's leaving. We're believing. We're believing it's leaving.
Ooh,
all right.
I can stand behind that.
All right. So we're going through chapter 3.5, how to stop before the flop. If you have not seen any of these books, if you don't have this book, I would encourage you to grab it. We've been doing lives for a long time because we've been traveling. So it's taking us a while to get through this book. You can always go to ketomomsecrets.com, click on mindset, go through the other parts of the book with us.
Samantha, hello from Kentucky. We were just in
We
Kentucky.
were just there.
We drove right through.
We did a long little road trip, and now we're back and getting back on track with life and school. So we have 4 daughters. If you're brand new, post new below. We'd love to get to know you. We homeschool. We love to talk about mindset. We talk about ketones. If you ever have any questions, send me a direct message or post your questions below. All right, we're diving into the concept of how to stop before you flop. In this chapter, Craig talks about how oftentimes people get to a point in their life and maybe they don't have the job they want. Maybe they got fired. Maybe their relationship is poor. Maybe financially they're in crazy distress. Maybe it's your weight. I often have people say this to me, Steve. They'll say,
what do they say?
Let's say, hey, Stephanie, I've been doing this diet for a couple weeks and I haven't lost the weight.
Oh.
When is it going to come off?
Yes.
Right? I hear that almost every single day. Hey, it's been a couple weeks. It's been a month. I'm not where I want to be. Oh my goodness, it's been 5 days. Hey, Stephanie, you're helping me with drinking ketones or you're helping me with the food that you eat, but how fast am I going to lose the weight?
Can you relate? Have you ever said that ever? Any of you ever said that?
So he starts this chapter off with just some ideas of the things that people have gone through. And he says, listen, it's not one major decision that has changed your life, that has shifted things, that have wrecked relationships, that have gained the weight, that caused you to lose a job, like that has wrecked a marriage. It's not one thing. It's like a slippery slope of baby steps in the wrong direction. And so how do we stop that before you get there? Well, that's the point.
What's interesting is he used the story of Samson. How many steps was it exactly? Everyone thinks Samson's life was just destroyed right away, but it took 56,250 steps before he made the decision.
Right. He shared the story of Samson from the Bible. If you don't know that, it's a great story, and yet a story that ends in tragedy because he walked the wrong way.
Yeah.
Deliberately.
So think about that. Every day you have choices that you get to make. And if you look at where your life is right now, it is the sum total of the choices that you've made to this point.
Right.
And so it is interesting because I do hear it all the time. People find Stephanie online on KetoMOM or through the podcast or through social media. And they're like, I've been doing the keto diet for a week and I'm not losing my weight.
Right.
We hear this all the time. All the time.
Right.
And then she has to gently remind them, well, like, how long have you been overweight? How long have you been out of shape? Right. I'll give a fun little story. Like we went on this little 9-day road trip, and every day up until then we were working out at CrossFit.
Yeah.
And I just went back to the gym yesterday for the first time in 9 days. Do you think I'm sore today?
Yeah.
I can barely walk from the front squats and the power cleans. So it took 9 days to like get sore again. It's kind of reverse of what we're talking about, but it's going to take me 9 more days to be able to work all this stuff out where it doesn't hurt.
Right.
So don't give up. Like, that's why we're going through this book, because those habits that you're doing every day, they are so important.
Right.
To your end goal, to accomplishing your dream, to fulfilling your vision.
So good. So he says this, here's what we're focusing on in this chapter. What unhealthy, unuseful, and perhaps ungodly habit is taking you in a direction you don't want to go? We're going to name that. You're going to work through that. You're going to write it down. And then we're going to go back to basically the beginning of the book, figure out what the cue is. You're going to make it hard for you to do that habit so that you cut that habit off. This is super great. You want to say that?
You cannot defeat what you cannot define.
Right.
I mean, that's powerful.
He says oftentimes people don't want to label what is going wrong or the decisions that are not right, or they don't want to admit that they binge eat, or that they yell at their kids, or that maybe they're cheating on their spouse. That sounds extreme, but it's a real thing. If they can't admit it, and if they can't talk about it and they can't define it, they can't change it.
All right. Those are some very extreme.
It is. That's what he uses.
And Stephanie thinks I'm the extreme one. So I'll bring it down to a practical level of like, I'm guessing some of you who are tuning in are actually dealing with some of those things. And it's actually, we got to work through that. For me, I would say a lot of you have maybe been updated on this book, how it's completely transformed my thinking.
Right.
The who before the do. I have not ate sugar in
a long time.
I don't even know. Yesterday, I asked our youngest daughter, Annie, how long have I gone without eating sugar? And she said, Dad, you've gone without eating sugar for 2 weeks and 10 days. That's what she said.
Just randomly.
I said, well, it's been a little bit longer than that, but let's just say it's been 5 weeks, right? So here's the next thing. Guess what? The new habit I get to start, since I feel like I've transformed my mind in all of this, the next thing I get to work on is portion control. So let me know if this relates to any of the dads out there. All you moms, you don't have to relate to this, but for the dads, here's the real reality. You go and it's dinner time, or you go out to eat and you order something that's like, this is your healthy meal, right? Or you grab the amount of food that you're going to plan on eating because it fits within your macros. And then what happens is all of your kids decide they don't want to eat all of their food. So then you justify in your mind, you're like, we've already paid for this. Someone has to eat it, right? Guess who that someone is? It's me. So I wore this shirt in honor of all the dads out there. It says, don't give up. We can do this, okay? We can do this.
They have to eat the leftovers.
So the next focus for me for the next 5 weeks is portion control.
That's good.
It's really important.
I tell people, you only eat when you're hungry, not when you're bored or when you're forced to eat.
But they keep feeding me. That's what seems to happen.
All right. I love how he says this, because I think it's so true. He goes, good habits are difficult to start because the pain comes now and the payoff comes in the future. Bad habits are difficult to stop because the payoff comes now and the pain comes in the future. That's so true. Right? Roller reversal.
That was the reality of me with sugar.
Right.
Every time. And I could justify it for all of the reasons of why I think I needed to eat it.
Right. All right. So how do we make a bad habit? How do we make it a good habit? How do we stop the bad habit? He goes, why resist a temptation tomorrow if you have the power to eliminate it today? And he goes back to the habit cue that you talked about a while ago. In this book, it talks about the cue, and he says you eliminate the cue. What does that mean?
We're not talking about the conspiracy. We are talking about the habit loop. Okay, so the cue it's basically like, think of awareness. It's so important.
Right.
You're not taking me serious. I'm in a good mood today.
The cue.
So you have to have the awareness.
The extra popcorn in your counter. Like if for some reason you sit down, and every time you sit down, when you come home from work and you're exhausted, and then you sit on the couch and then you watch a movie, it reminds you that you usually eat popcorn at night before bed. So what do? You remove the popcorn.
Yeah, what would be some other fun examples? You go to your sister's house and there's cookies on the counter. It's not a big deal if you're only there for an hour, but if you're going to be there for 2 days, you should remove the cookies from the counter.
You could have.
Here's the reality.
I could have put them in the cupboard.
Willpower is a real thing,
yeah,
but you only really have so much of it.
Right.
It's actually a surprise I did not eat those cookies because they were Girl Scout cookies. And we all know them. They pull you in. There's something to them.
Right.
But the willpower in that case, it won. And so the reality is you all
You have to remove it.
you have to know what it
Okay.
is that you're going after.
If it's a coffee shop or a fast food restaurant that you usually drive by and you find yourself it's like a magnet and it pulls you in, you have to go a different direction.
Right. And remember, everything I feel like we've ever talked about in any book, it's always about behavior modification. This is the first time that if you are understanding the reason why you keep doing
Right.
those habits,
Right.
that's what it's all about. And if you can identify why you are making the shift, I'll give one fun example.
Yeah.
Youngest daughter Annie yesterday, she's like, I need Instagram and YouTube. Remember this?
She's 9.
She's like, I've made 12 videos.
I'm making videos.
I'm going to inspire people. I think it's super cool.
She's a good
I'm
video
not trying
maker.
I'm not attempting to deflate her dreams of
Yeah.
it. But our second youngest, Eliza, she says, Annie, why do you want to have the YouTube channel? What are you going to talk about on your YouTube channel? And she sat there and she didn't know the answer, right? So my question for a lot of you are, like, you go through these types of books, so you're tuning into this for the first time, you're probably hearing people talk about, well, you need to start doing this, you need to stop doing that. We have gotten to that point because we're 3.5 weeks into this,
right.
But it all started with mindset.
Right.
It all started with why. So many people skip that most important aspect and they just go right to the do.
Right, because they want it done. Well, they think they want it done or think they can do it. And then what happens? How many of you have gone back to, maybe you have lost the weight and gained it back and lost the weight and gained it back? It's because you don't have you need to work on the why, the who before the do.
Is that good?
Yeah.
I feel like that's good.
All right, so we're going to give you some action steps because here's what he says. The habits you have today are shaping who you will become tomorrow. One step at a time, your habits are taking you somewhere, right? Good or bad. And so he says, these are a little intense questions, is how we phrase it, because, right, if you're taking notes or if you have the book, make sure you're answering these. The first question is, what is one habit you know that you most need to stop? What is something that you need to stop? What is the best thing that could happen if you are successful and quit? What is the worst thing that could happen if you continue or get worse? Did you want to say something?
No, I was just reading the comments.
Oh.
And thinking, I was really thinking about applying these to my life. Like, what does that look like?
When you think about stopping, what is your relationship for continuing? Like, how are you going to stick to that? And I've told this story before, and I think it's kind of silly, but it actually is real. I was having a bad day. It was super late at night, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to go eat some chocolate. And we didn't have any chocolate in the house. So I've told that in more detail, but I legitimately scrounged through all of the cupboards, couldn't find it. I made it hard to go get it because I didn't have it. I had a split second thought of I could go through a drive-thru and grab something. And then I was like, oh, it's too cold. I'm not going to. But that's how people's minds run.
What did you do then?
I removed the cue. I got frustrated. I went searching for it, didn't have it, too cold to go outside. What did I do? I think I just went and sat with the kids. I don't know. It was late at night one night.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you come found me.
I went and found this sweet man.
Sweet. All right. So this is the last question. What cues regularly create triggers for your habit? Okay. So for Stephanie, she was a little bit hungry. She was probably
I was just crabby.
Oh, angry. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
She could have been a little bit lonely. She could have been a little bit tired. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. That's where you have to halt. Those are usually the 4 things that create that negative trigger to happen. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Emotional.
Just identify it. Just identify it. Call it out. Say what it is. And you have to learn how to celebrate every day.
Yep. All right. So you're going to work on that today. What is one thing you're going to stop? You're going to, if you have the book, I would encourage you to fill it out, work through that.
Can you read that in an inspirational? How could you give it to them?
All right.
This is the principle for the day.
Here's the principle. Good habits are difficult to start because the pain comes now and the payoff is in the future. Bad habits are difficult to stop because the payoff comes now and the pain is in the future. Honestly, you could probably look at some of the things you're doing, and if you feel like it gives you joy right away, you can probably look at, like, is that something I really need to? It's not all things, but anyways,
it's not all
things.
That's great. It's not all things, but you know what we're talking about.
Yes.
I hope. And if you don't, get the book. You want to show them the book real quick?
Grab the book. Continue to tune in. You can always go to KetoMomSecrets.com and click on Mindset. Tomorrow we'll focus on from so to who. From so
go
to
check
who.
out the podcast. Spotify, and on the podcast app.
All right, reach out, ask questions below. We hope you guys have a great day. Continue to do the work because it's super powerful. It'll help you take the next step so that you can achieve your goals.
Hey, and if you think Stephanie's really great with being a think coach, like helping you think differently, drop emoji or send her an encouraging message today, because I think today is the day with like she's working through this hip stuff. So guess what? Send her some love.
I'm going to the.
That's my ask
going
for
to get
you
a massage here, Stacey.
Send her some love.
All right, I appreciate you guys.
You all.
Thanks for tuning in.
Day.
Have a great day. Bye, everybody.